Before we go any further, just want to thank all the people over on Patreon, because without their help, none of this upgraded content that you'd be seeing would be possible. Over on the Patreon, you get exclusive sneak peeks at upcoming videos. You also get access to the Patreon only Discord server. Coming up soon, I'm going to be working on talking about other anime that I can't talk about here on YouTube, like say ReZero, Konosuba, and etc. I'm also going to start posting the scripts for video essays, and every 3 months we do an anime and manga haul. We also are going to open up the Patreon only Discord server to YouTube members at the $2 price tier, which also means that members will be seeing their name here alongside the patron. But with that being said, let's get back into today's video. Yo, what's going on, everybody? It's your boy Naruto Explain here, bringing you guys another review for Boruto Naruto Next Generations episode 287. And now that episode 287 is done in the books, man, do we got a lot to talk about, because we have jumped headfirst into the Code Assault arc, and there have been some scenes added by the anime that kind of flesh out the material. Code gets an introduction very fitting of a car inner member. There are some scenes in this episode that, due to YouTube's new policy on blood, I can't exactly show you the scenes on here. However, I will say there are some really cool action sequences that deal with Code. We got introduced to Ada, one of the cyborgs that are above Jigen. We get the confirmation that Code has latent abilities that put him above Jigen, something that manga readers already knew, but now anime readers can kind of see exactly what it is that makes Code special. So it's cool to see that bit right there. We really got to see some of the sequences with Code using his claw marks in order to better big Code up and let fans know that, like, hey, this guy's gonna be a threat. And very fittingly, on top of handling Code and Ada's introductions in a masterclass way, we also got to see the Otsutsuki god and the worshippers of the JOUGAN now have something to hitch their wagon to. Those people are going to be jumping up and down for joy right now. So now that we got the initial thoughts out of the way, let's back things up and get into the review itself. So this episode opens up adapting the back half of Boruto chapter 55, where you have Isshiki and he appears in front of Code. And when you first start watching it, you might say, wait a second, Isshiki had already spoke to Code. Is this a recap? Yes and no. The thing that's different here is, on top of them just outright reanimating the entire scene, the other thing we see Code activate his Karma seal and say that he's not going to allow anybody to call him defective anymore. But also, most importantly, we get to see the Otsutsuki god. We see Isshiki giving Code his orders to feed Boruto or Kawaki to the Ten Tails, that way that he'll be able to cultivate a chakra fruit, and he gives Code the orders to eat the chakra fruit in order to become an Otsutsuki. I believe in the manga he told Code to eat a chakra fruit in order to start the path towards becoming an Otsutsuki god. So I like that we did get to see that bit right there. Now, the other thing that stands out is that after you get the opening, it jumps over to Sai and Shikamaru, and they're looking at Code's claw marks, and they're trying to figure out exactly what it is that they're looking at. In the moment that Kawaki sees them, Kawaki immediately says, like, yeah, I know exactly what those things are. Those are not gonna be anything that you find in your ninjutsu handbooks or anything like that. Those are Code's claw marks. And we get the revelation that Code can actually travel back and forth between his claw marks, and they work very similar to Minato's flying Raijin. And there's been a little bit of a debate in the community. I still say Minato's flying Raijin is more superior, but there are things Code can do with his claw marks that actually make it superior to the flying Raijin. So it really just comes down to how it's used in battle. But we get to see a small glimpse of what it is that Code can do with the claw marks when he starts walking through the land of snow and he approaches Boro's hideout. And so far, everything's been like it was in the manga. You have Kawaki confirm the claw marks. That was something anime original. However, when Code starts walking through, he's asking Boro's subordinates, let me inside of this hideout. I know that this is a facility that his cult uses. And when Code realizes that these people don't know that Boro's dead, but they're still following his orders, he starts getting agitated. And then that's when these men, they start letting off all their various shots. And the anime actually lets this scene breathe out a little bit more, and the manga was a little bit quick. In the manga, Code just uses his ninja tech to transform his limbs and he takes out the guards pretty quickly. We did get to see him use a claw mark, but it wasn't anything super special. In the anime, they have this man dodging attacks, bobbing and weaving, and strategically using his claw marks. He really gets built up as a villain. And while this is going on, you actually have Kawaki confronting Boruto, and he tells him, like, I don't get why you're taking those pills that Amato gave you. You can't trust this man. And Boruto tells him, I don't really have a choice, because if I don't take these pills, Momoshiki will just take over my body and use me as a vessel faster. At least by taking the pills, I'm able to slow down the progression. So I did like that, you know, again, Boruto's just showing his reasoning and he's showing his sharper mind here. And that's when Kawaki tells him, like, hey, like, Code's claw marks have been placed around the village. Code is probably coming for everybody that had something to do with Isshiki's death. And when Boruto gets excited saying, well, I'll just take him down, Kawaki tells him, like, hey, you can't get super excited because Code is different from everybody else. All the other car enters, Code is different. Don't underestimate him. And the anime takes this moment to show us, because when Code starts walking through, bobbing and weaving, dodging the chakra blasts that are coming out of those weapons, Code immediately just has his claw mark sprouted all around that battlefield, and he starts using that space-time jutsu to start moving between the claw marks. And right away, Code gets right behind one of the people and he ends up penetrating him from behind. And again, because of how bloody it is, I can't show you the screenshot of it, but there was a significant amount of blood that came from that. And I like how the anime adds this extra scene where Code, after he's penetrated the guy, he turns around and uses his body as a human shield. That way, when all those chakra blasts are fired off at him, he can just use his body to tank all of the attacks. And then Code throws the body towards the person. And as that body falls towards the ground, Code places the claw marks onto their body. And then using his ninja tech, he's able to place his hand through the claw marks, and he ends up penetrating that person from behind as well. And he begins torturing them for information at that point, saying, like, hey, like, if you don't want me to kill you, then you need to do exactly what I'm telling you. And that's when we find out from Kawaki, because they're doing the jump cuts back and forth. Kawaki tells Boruto that Code survived Jigen's ritual to try and find a vessel for Isshiki. However, while Code does have a karma seal, he can't be used for resuscitation purposes. He just has a weaponized karma. And so we do get to see Code as a child, in the sense that we get to see the karma seal actually spreading. And if you go back to some of the older anime episodes, there are people who think that we've actually already seen Code in the background in the past when it comes to this ritual that was going on. But we at least get to see this in full in the anime version for episode 287. And so after Kawaki tells Boruto, they're like, hey, he's got latent powers that go beyond Jigen's, that's where we see Code, and as he says, like, hey, there's somebody here I want to talk to, she should be in this facility, more of those soldiers start coming out and they start trying to attack Code. They end up eviscerating one of the other people, and you got this huge dude that comes out, and this is an anime original scene, but essentially this dude comes out shirtless and he's all muscled up and everything. He starts taking these enhancements, and you really see the first time they get at it, Code is just dodging attacks easily, and he's knocking him backwards with simple taijutsu. And then as the guy continues to juice up and continue to start leveling up, you see Code use a little bit more force, but the result still ends up being the same. Code ends up no different than the guy. So again, we're just seeing jobbers fed to Code, but it's meant to give you a sense like, oh, okay, this guy's actually something kind of special right here. This is really just meant to show off Code's jutsu and just show off some of the power itself in order to continue building suspense and hype. So I thought that that was a really good decision by whoever wrote the script on this, to have sequences like this. Now, the next thing that we end up seeing is that after Code makes light work out of the people that he was fighting, Naruto is being briefed on the situation. He's like, well, wait a second, isn't Sasuke looking for Code? Make sure you pass this information on to Sasuke. And Naruto just comes right out and says it. And he says, like, hey, you know, the idea that these claw marks have been placed this close inside the village, I agree with you, Shikamaru. That's disturbing. However, we know exactly what it is he's trying to do. This might be a distraction. You're placing these three-man teams around all four of these claw marks around the village. This guy is most likely trying to spread a just thin, and he's gonna try and kill myself and Sasuke. And what I like here is that Sai takes it a step further and says it ain't just you and Sasuke. He's gonna try and kill Boruto and Kawaki and Amato as well. He wants everybody that had something to do with Isshiki's death. And you can just tell right there that, you know, this is the moment where Naruto's realizing, like, yeah, okay, stuff's about to get real. And when Shikamaru goes to confront Amato, you can tell that off screen, Amato's already briefed them and let them know, like, yeah, you know, what Kawaki said about him having combat power that goes beyond Jigen is absolutely true. And when Kawaki begins to explain it to Boruto, he says, like, hey, like, all the car inner members, they all had their bodies scientifically enhanced. That's something that we all knew because Kawaki and the other car inners, they all had their bodies enhanced by Amato. But in the case of Code, it went so far that his combat abilities actually went beyond that of Jigen. However, because he worshipped Jigen, because Jigen was an Otsutsuki vessel, he allowed limiters to be placed on his body. Therefore, it actually keeps his power in check. And so Amato tells Shikamaru, like, hey, you know, you really have a guard in front of me because you really just have a spy to make sure I'm not in cahoots. And Code at his current battle power right now, he's not going to try and attack the village head up. He's gonna at least try and get his hands on me and get his limiters removed. And then once that happens, you probably have something to worry about. And then the episode shifts over where Code meets Bug. And when Code tells Bug, like, hey, like, Jigen's dead, Boro's dead, I want to meet Ada, take me to her. And when the episode gets over to Ada, we have a moment where Bug is trying to warn Code, like, hey, Ada is different. You can't force her to give you the information that you want. Code ain't trying to hear it. And then we jump over and we have Boruto and Kawaki speaking, and the anime does a good job of utilizing the end credits to actually have Kawaki give Boruto the suggestion, and he tells him, why not just take somebody like Code, who's already gotten a karma seal, but he can't be used as a vessel yet? Give him your own karma. That way, when that karma seal that you have fully extracts in, your soul gets erased. You can just be reborn inside of Code. And the logic behind what Kawaki's saying is definitely right there, but we see that Boruto is indeed Naruto's son because he says, well, wouldn't that just be me giving somebody a death sentence? And Kawaki's like, hey, the dude's scum. You might as well just allow him to be used to revive yourself. And then the episode ends off after the end credits where Ada's been released from that chamber that she's in, and Code's already marked her with the claw mark, and he attempts to try and attack Ada. Ada looks over the shoulder and Ada says, basically, try me. And that whole sequence right there when Ada comes out, like the way that that girl's glowing, you got a few of the fan service shots right there that some lonely hearts are going to be spending some time with come Valentine's Day, looking at some of those pictures. The ones that are over 18 are gonna be playing that Benny Mardone Into the Night song. If you don't know what that is, just look up the lyrics and you'll get the joke behind it. Or you're gonna have some people that they might say, hey, I didn't know she wasn't 18. I didn't know. I didn't ask for news. I didn't go look up her OnlyFans. You might have some people that try and debate that and make that argument. But Studio Pierrot was very subtle with the fan service, but there was fan service there with that shot. But I mean, it's a shonen. You expect it as part of the shonen genre. I gotta say, I like the reveal that we got for Ada. You know, I've not hidden, I'm a fan of the character. I like the character a lot. However, I like the character a lot more because she's got Kanroji from Demon Slayer's voice actress. So I got the voice actress from one of my favorite characters in Demon Slayer voicing one of my favorite characters from Boruto. So it's a win-win for me. We got a good one for Ada. Now we just need to see who Damon's voice actor is. However, my episode question for you guys is, how do you feel about the anime original sequences that deal with Code? Was this a good enough introduction for what Code can do? While you think that over, click here to watch the Sasuke Wrestling Chapter 7.2 review, or click here for the KRYPTONIAN SAIYAN video.